All right, be honest with yourself. How much time have you wasted over the past few years jumping from one app to the next, or trying out some new bit of software only to end up ditching it a few months later because it doesn't give you what you need? The grass often seems greener when you're looking at all of the shiny apps on the market, and you can often be led into that trap of thinking, if I just use that new app, it's going to solve all my business problems and make my life a hell of a lot easier. The reality is, getting to know the apps that you're currently using is normally the best use of your time. It can make you far more productive. I've wasted literally thousands of hours and probably tens of thousands of pounds on the wrong software over the years. I've got a degree in computing, I'm a bit of a tech geek, and all those great apps out there, I love just to check them out and see what they could do for me. What I've learned over the years is that actually sticking to one set of apps, about getting the most out of them, about using them until you outgrow them, that is the way you get traction in your business, not by wasting time and resources switching and chopping and changing with every new thing that comes out. Over the years, I've developed 7 lessons which I try to stick to whenever I'm making any decision about an app that I'm going to buy. Sticking to these has helped me to stay more focused, to stop jumping from ship to ship, to actually get my team to be experienced in using the apps that we've currently got in our business, rather than trying to introduce them to new stuff all the time and wasting a whole lot of resources. In this episode, I'm going to walk you through the 7 lessons so you can apply them to when you make your next app purchase. So, lesson 1. Put some time to pick the apps that are going to give you what you need right now, and possibly for the next 12 to 24 months. Thinking beyond that is just guesswork. You'll never know where your business is going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. You'll never know what the software is going to be. You're never going to know what you're going to need. And so therefore, thinking too far ahead, planning, saying, I want to get the best app. The big boys are using this app, so therefore I'm going to get that because it must be great. It might be great for them because they've got a company of 1,000 employees and they're basically killing it with multi-million pound revenues. But if you're just starting out, it's probably not the right app for you. So try to find something that fits your needs right now and serves you right now. Don't think too far ahead. Just make sure that you plan 6 to 12 months, get the most out of the app now, and then you'll learn what else you might need. And only when you exhaust your current solution should you be looking to change what you're currently using. I've been guilty of this so many times over the years. For example, with our marketing, we went from Insightly CRM to ActiveCampaign to Infusionsoft to HubSpot. Each of these required a massive amounts of retraining about expense. Each of the apps was more expensive than the previous one. And we ended up going right back to ActiveCampaign after 3 years of going round the houses. I learned the hard way and wasted massive amounts of resources in the process. So now when I'm looking at a new app, I simply say, okay, what is it that I need right now? What app can serve me for the next 6 to 12 months? And that is as far ahead as I look. As the business grows, as I realize what it is that the limitations of that app are, I can then put a proper plan into place to try to find something that may have those solutions that I need. Okay, lesson number 2. Make sure that your core apps integrate seamlessly and natively. So what this means is you want to avoid using tools like Zapier and Integromat that basically join apps together. When you've got an app, say your email management or your CRM, and then you've got your task manager, and then you've got your calendar booking software, if they're all in different apps, then you don't want to have to be sort of hard coding all the interactions. If someone books a meeting on your calendar, you want that to appear in your CRM. You don't want to have to know about it. You don't have to set anything up beyond the sort of initial joining the 2 apps together. And you definitely don't want to have to maintain any integrations. Things like Zapier and Integromat allow you to basically join 2 apps together. So the output of one app can become the input of another app. This allows things to talk. And so therefore you can pass information without having to have a human involved. They're really, really cool and really powerful, but they require you to then maintain them, to set them up, to make sure that they're working, to pay for them as well. It's much, much easier if there's a native integration between the 2 apps. So at a click of a button, you join the 2 together and then they just basically talk and you don't have to do anything else. That is one of the key lessons I've learned. we used to have about 65 different Zaps connecting everything together in Zapier. And this seemed really great. We thought I was being clever, automation. I love my tech, so it was a cool thing to do. Spent absolutely hours setting this stuff up. We had a team member that's basically half their role was to set up and maintain the integrations that we had. And over time, this became totally unsustainable. We ended up then revisiting our apps. What are we using? And deciding on a set of apps that talk to each other without the need for any third-party setup like Zapier or Integromat. This made our lives so much easier, and that person could then be reassigned to do much more valuable work. Also cheaper because we weren't paying for a large subscription for a service that we didn't need. Okay, lesson number 3. Stick with the apps you have. Unless there is an absolutely crucial feature that you simply can't live without, that's holding your business back, that's stopping you from scaling or stopping you from doing something that you desperately need to do, or if it's just taking huge amounts of admin to be able to actually connect things together, like as I said, mentioned in lesson 2 about using Zapier to join things together. If it's starting to become a real hassle to do that, yes, that is the time to be then looking at your actual app choice and saying, do I actually have the right apps in my business, or did I make a really bad decision early on? But once you've got something that basically works, stick with it and master it. Becoming the master of any app is far better than basically jumping from ship to ship and never really getting beyond the novice level. If you and your team can use all of the features of the apps you've probably got everything you need for now and into the near future. At some point, maybe you will outgrow them, and yet there is always a time when you need to look ahead. But right now, concentrate on the ones you've got. Make sure that you are putting the time and effort to train yourself and train your staff to get the absolute best out of them. And then you'll identify where the holes are, and you can put a plan into place to try to identify which apps may be suitable in the future to give you those additional benefits. But until you're profitable, until you're actually killing it, until you're ready to scale, then stick with what you've got and just get on with actually doing what your core business is about and not worrying about all the nice to have features that so many apps sing and dance about. If not, you'll end up like me with my CRMs, going around the houses. And basically, after 4 years of jumping from ship to ship, wasting loads of time and resources, I ended up going back to almost the same one I started out in the beginning. Right now in my business, I don't need anything more. So why bother paying for something I don't need? Because big apps have big amounts of admin. They often have loads of stuff that you need to learn in order to get the most out of them. So yeah, in principle, having the all singing, all dancing bit of software seemed like a great idea. It's going to solve loads of your problems in your business. You're going to be able to automate everything. It's going to give you all the reports and the statistics, and you'll be able to use that information to scale your business. But if you're just a one-man band, or you've got a couple of assistants and you're just getting started and you're just basically trying to get your business off the ground, you don't need all those additional features. You don't need the hassle of trying to figure all that stuff out. You want something simple. So stick with something that's simple and then basically learn it and become an absolute master at it. Invest your time in what you've got, and then rather than wasting your time on trying to get all those little nice to have features that some of those bigger, more expensive sort of corporate level apps have. Lesson 4, get your team or your virtual assistant or your PA to actually do the setup of the app for you. There may be some parts you have to do yourself, like signing up for the account, maybe paying for it, maybe adding some integrations, unless you share the logins with them. But once it's sort of like set up and working, get them to actually sort of do all the setup of the actual app for your business. Because in doing that, they will learn how it all works. They can do that alongside you. If you also want to have an idea of what's going on, that's absolutely fine. But just make sure you've got somebody working alongside you so they become the resident expert. As a business owner, you haven't got time to learn how all the apps work. You just need to know what you want out of it. So give someone a goal and say, right, I need my app to do this. So for example, I need you to set up a email automation that emails all of our clients, once every 2 weeks with these emails. It tags them when they open them. It does X, Y, and Z. And then give that task to your assistant to actually go and figure out how to do all that. As the business owner, you should be caring about the results, not about the nitty-gritty of how everything works. If, like me, you're a bit of a tech geek and you like the idea of learning how apps work, that's great, but it will suck you away from doing what your core business is. And that should be about growing and leading and about taking your business to the next level, not getting stuck on the nitty-gritty of all the detail. That is what your assistant is for. So get them to go through the training. If there's training available through the app, then great. If not, pay for a course. Go on to something like Udemy, how to use ActiveCampaign like a pro, or how to use your CRM like a pro, whatever it is, and get them to sit that course. Pay them to do it. Pay them to then do any assessments and basically get them up to be an absolute expert. They will then be able to add massive value back to your company, and you haven't had to learn a single thing. A key thing here is, though, once they've become the master, once they've got it, get them to then record how they do all the day-to-day things in your company, so you can then replace them if they leave the company, or move them on to something else and get someone to sort of fill in the void behind them by following the instructional videos that they've created. That way, when you've got someone who loves learning apps, who loves about getting their head around stuff, getting deep on stuff, they can become your app master. They can learn the app, set it up, get it working, and then teach other people how to do it through recording videos to show them. That's how we've basically managed to set up a bunch of apps really easily without me having to know how they all work. Okay, so lesson 6. If you are going to move to a different app, make sure you do your research first. The simplest way to do this is to list down all of the features that you think you need, and then start looking around. You can get your virtual assistant or your assistant to do a lot of this hard work for you. But actually, if it's a big app, say your CRM or your marketing tool or your course delivery platform or some key software in your business, then it's actually probably worth your time doing this, unless you've got some IT department and you're that sort of size company. But for most people listening to this, you probably are the person that's going to make these decisions and are going to know the needs of your business better than anyone else. So putting some time in up front is a really useful thing to do. So to do this, I often create a spreadsheet, and I'll list the main features down the left-hand side and then put every app on the market on the top that comes up in those top 10 lists when you do a quick Google search. Be really wary of listening to most of the reviews online. The majority of those will have links to affiliate accounts, so they're going to actually praise software simply because they have an affiliation with there. You really want to be finding those unbiased reviews, and they're actually quite difficult to find these days. So I find that actually doing your own research is the only way to really nail it. But these are still really useful because they'll identify some of the key things you should be thinking about. They'll be talking about the best features and the worst features. So put that into your list. What are the things that you might need? What are the things that you don't want? So listen to the actual reviews, because they're going to tell you a lot about the good and bad of that particular type of app, rather than the specifics of any particular one provider. So once you've got your list, you can then go and actually start testing some of these out. You can often exclude a lot of apps straight off the bat simply by looking at things like, does it have the right integrations for your existing software? Or you're going to have to actually go and do a lot of plugging things together, which is going to, again, like I said before, waste a load of time and resources. Also, if it doesn't have one of the core features that you can't live without, just get rid of it. Don't even look at it anymore. And when you've got your shortlist, I would invest in actually purchasing each of those accounts. You can often get trial accounts for sort of 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever and actually have a go. But also, even if you have to pay, you can often get a 2 week or a month money back guarantee. So put some time aside and block some time out in your diary to actually go and review each of these apps. If it's a course, for example, set up a mini course of a few lessons to actually see how it works, how it fits together. Does it actually give a good customer experience? Can you amend things the way you want? Can you actually change it so it looks and gets the same functionality that you're looking for? Make sure that actually it does what you want it to do before you invest in it. This will take time, and this is one of the reasons that many people skip this step. But what will happen if you do is you can get an app, you can put the time to sort of get it all set up, you invest in it, you get your team on board, and then you find it's actually missing something essential, and then you're stuck in a position. Do you stick with something which isn't right, that isn't going to give you what you need, or do you then jump ship again and go through that whole painful process all over? Putting some work up front can really help save huge amounts of time and headaches in the future. So once you've got your apps and you've got your list of core features, as you're going through each app, if you're testing it out, you'll notice things in the app that you think, oh, that's a really good thing, or that's actually a really bad thing. And therefore you can add to this list. And then simply just tick in the box. Either does it have this feature, does it have a bit of this feature, or does it lack this feature? You'll then get a table with the top apps of your shortlist, all the core features, the nice to haves and the don't wants, and it's really quite easy then. You just pick the one with the most sort of yeses in all the boxes. Which one has the most of your core features? Hopefully all of your core features, because that's what they're core. Which one has the most nice to have features, and which one has the least don't want features? Then your decision is almost made for you. The last thing to look at is obviously price. If something is just outside of your price range right now, then think really hard before investing in it. You're going to be stuck with this app for the long term. So if you're going to invest in something, make sure you've got the resources to pay for it going forward. Many apps have sort of cheap versions, so you can get in at a low level and you can think, well, yeah, this has enough core features for now for me to get going. And then in the future, I can upgrade to a more comprehensive version of the app to get some additional stuff which I might need in the future. So that's fine, but just make sure that you're not having to upgrade to get any of the core stuff which you desperately need right now, unless obviously you've got the money to do that. It's always a bit of a balancing act between features and cost, and it's only you that can actually make that decision. The last part of this, and one thing that I can think you can only get from actually testing the apps out yourself and actually probably getting one of your team members to have a go as well, is how usable is it? Is it really clunky? Does it take ages to make amendments? I'll give you an example. So when I was looking for learning management systems, I tried out about 18 different apps in the end. I didn't look at all of them in lots of detail, but I had them on my spreadsheet so I could actually exclude them and then came up with a shortlist. And one of them on the shortlist just stood out for features. It literally had everything I needed. It had calendar, it had help desk, it had landing pages, it had checkout, it had the actual course delivery itself, and an email management, and a load of other stuff in there, and loads of other automation stuff actually that would have helped loads in my business. It looked absolutely perfect, and I actually even posted on my Facebook group and said, I've been checking this out, it looks awesome. Now, anyone else using it? A few people said, yeah, I'm using it. It all looks great. So I actually invested in it. I bought the app and I put some time in to just actually get it off the ground and get it going. What I found when I was actually using it was that, yeah, it had all these features, but it was also really clunky to use. To make any amendments to any part of the course, I had to basically click on about 8 screens to get there, and it just took an absolute age. The email automation side of stuff as well was really clunky and limited. It took ages to set up the automations, and it just basically wasn't usable. So despite it looking great on paper, it was only when I actually had a go did I realize that it wasn't really suitable and it would have held us back. I ended up going for a app which was actually more difficult to set up, but then once it was set up, it was then actually going to be much, much easier to use. So you've got to weigh this up as well. The cost in terms of time to actually get something set up, to actually the cost in time of actually using it on a daily basis. You want to make your life as easy as possible and the life of your team. You want to reduce friction and reduce annoyance so people enjoy working with you because you've got really good apps that allow them to actually do their work easily and quickly without getting frustrated. So unfortunately, the only way sometimes to do that is to actually have a go yourself. If you rely on reviews, if you rely on other people's recommendations, they're always going to be tainted. Once someone's invested in an app or software or service or course, they're always going to say that it's actually all right, unless they're very, very honest. That's because they don't want to actually feel that they've made a bad decision. They want to feel that they've made the right decision, and so they'll always talk positively about something if they've already invested a lot of time and money into it. So be very wary of recommendations, and as I said before, be even more wary of reviews, as they're often linked to affiliates, and therefore someone's going to promote one product over another because they're going to get paid if you actually go and click on their link and buy that product. Okay, and finally, lesson number 7. So just to really drive this point home, when you're picking apps, I know what I've said about researching and making sure it's right for you and doing all that extra hard work up front, but also don't overthink it. Don't try and plan too far ahead. Pick an app that serves you right now, then become a master at it. Only then will you truly know what features you definitely need and can't live without, and the ones that actually are nice to have or actually that you really don't want and that are just in the way of you becoming a success in your business. Get your team invested, train them up, and then when you outgrow your current apps, look at the next level that you need. Then do all that hard research again and pick the right one for your business at that time. I think 6 to 12 months is a good time frame to aim at. It may seem quite short. And you may think, yeah, but what happens in 2 years' time? It's going to be a whole headache having to move everything. The way apps are set up these days is most of the time it's fairly easy to move from one to the other. It's in the app's best interest to make that transition or the migration from one app to the other as easy as possible. Many apps even provide migration services. They'll do all the hard work for you. Or there's sometimes just a click of a button and it'll import everything. Yeah, there's probably going to be some admin and some headaches in doing that, but far less than you probably think. If it wasn't easy for people to move from one app to the other, no one ever would. So as I said, it's in their interest to make that as painless as possible for you. So that's it. I hope you found these 7 lessons useful and you apply them whenever you're making your decisions about what apps to go for, what apps to stay in. And remember, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Learn what you've got, master it, and then and only then think about changing in the future. Thanks very much.